you were there for our introduction to repetition. What is your particular interest in this particular class? Where are you coming from? So feel free to unmute yourselves, by the way. Yes, absolutely.
I just want to get over my phobia of it, having had, I told you last week, a bad experience.
Not such a good experience, I remember.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the Actors Temple, which became more and more Meisnery without any encouragement. It was all negative, and I just really fed up with it.
That was your experience of the Actors Temple?
Yeah, at first it started out really good, then it got more Meisnery. Meisnery.
Yes, Meisnery. That is the right term, yes.
Yeah, and it just became, for me, negative without any positive input from anybody. And I just got fed up with it. And I thought, oh, I don't have to pay to be told I'm no good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that. But yeah, I think with my experience as well, sometimes I think, as we were saying before, and I don't know what everybody else's experience is, but if you found yourself on a course with a particular methodology behind it, you can sometimes get tutors who are, how can I put it, a little bit overly keen on their approach exclusively. And I think it comes probably in a well-meaning way up to a point that they're very enthusiastic about what they're doing. But it somewhat misses the point, obviously, if that turns into a negative experience where you're just feeling cajoled and screamed at, perhaps at times, in order to get a response.
I mean, with Daniel, when he says, I didn't quite believe that because, and then he gives you an idea of what to think about, and just putting different ideas into your head, and it makes it so different, rather than just being told all the time, I didn't believe it, don't believe it. Well, why didn't you believe it? Well, I just didn't believe it. Wasn't true. Wasn't coming from a place of truth. Well, where is that place? So with Daniel, who's very gentle and very sweet and great, he is positive in his response to you. And that's a good thing. Yeah. Anyway, enough of my moaning. I want someone to see it in action.
That's good to know. Okay, so are we pretty much in the right place to start, do you think, here, Leonie? Is that all right?
I think we are, yeah. It's 5 past now, so I think, where is this coming from? I think this is coming from Yvonne's, so I'm just gonna, yeah, I think you can go ahead. Would you prefer for the observers to switch off their cameras, or are you okay to have everybody on screen?
I'm thinking we'll just play this by ear a little bit to begin with. So for the moment, I'm quite happy for people just to have their cameras on if they'd like to, just for this introduction. I think after that, just so that we can concentrate on the participants, hopefully this will be as useful an actual fact for the observers as it will be for those participating. So what I'm keen on doing is, as best as we can, adapting the Zoom medium to repetition as an exercise, and hopefully using it in a way that's obviously going to maximize the learning outcome without being overly technical about it. So look, just to kick off briefly then, I guess, with an introduction, and I know some of you will perhaps have heard of I've given you a little bit of context to the repetition exercise, so I'll keep it really brief this time. But the repetition exercise is an exercise that comes from a drama practitioner named Sanford Meisner. He's a Stanislavski-based practitioner, or was. He's not with us anymore, teaching into his 90s, up until I think the late 1990s. And as with many other drum practitioners you might have heard of, Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, Sanford Meisner is one of the big ones, I guess, who have come out of an American theater company called the Group Theater, who were around in the 30s, influenced very much by Stanislavski's work through the Moscow Arts Theater. And Sanford Meisner went on to develop a Stanislavski-based methodology, very much putting his spin on things. So all that really means is that he took it as an opportunity, of course, to investigate the things that interested him. And he was also a film actor himself and ended up running the casting department at 20th Century Fox for a while. So he was integrated into screen acting in a very definite way. And I think that informed his approach. So the repetition exercise is a unique exercise that Sanford Meisner developed, which forms the foundation of his approach to acting. His approach is intensive over a minimum of 2 years. And it's important to state that repetition as an exercise is there as a priming exercise before you're then moving into other aspects of his methodology. It's a simple exercise on the surface of things, but what interests me about it is that I think it is a incredibly empowering exercise for actors, because it's something that they can do for themselves if they're working along the correct guidelines. As with many simple things, there are aspects to it that require a little bit more application and concentration just to get things right. But look, in the initial stages, it's best just simply to see it as a game. And what I'm with some rules. And what I'm looking to do is, especially for those participating, just so as much as anything, I can concentrate on a number of people and we can work together. We're going to see how this game works, simply put, and see what benefit it is to us as actors. And it's very important to put it in that context, because as I say, as an exercise, it's something that actors can do themselves, and it's exercising the very thing that actors wouldn't otherwise really be able to do for themselves. By which I mean, if you split acting into 2 bits, preparation and practice, keeping it as simple as I possibly can, then the preparation bit, well, we can all analyze a text at some level. We all have an approach to that in order to get the most meaning we can out of a script that's been given to us, whether it be a play script or a screenplay. But what we're looking at now is practicing the other bit, the bit that takes place when you walk out from the wings onto a stage, the bit that takes place when you find yourself as an actor on camera or you walk onto camera. Now, that's the bit that can't really be practiced unless you're constantly working all the time. And as perhaps we know as actors, with the best will in the world, we don't find ourselves acting all the time, which means that we're not always getting the experience we need, the actual live experience on stage or on set, because I'm particularly interested in screen acting. That's my particular passion and interest. And they're rare opportunities. So to have an exercise that is priming you immediately by default, by which I mean, once the camera is turning over, you are immediately finding yourself in a place, physically, mentally, emotionally, where you're completely open to everything that is going on. If you want to unmute yourselves, guys, actually at the moment, please feel free. Otherwise, I always feel like I'm talking into something of a vacuum. So I'm quite happy just to pick out any questions that you have before we go into the exercise, which we'll be going into fairly shortly. Any questions that you have so far? Yes. Feel free to unmute yourself there, Linny. Sorry.
I thought I was muted. I should be muted sometimes. Anyway, so it's for me more about the technical side of this, because I've studied Meisner for a while, and my reason for wanting to do this class was to work with other people and their approach and try that and get some different learning. But obviously I've never done it through a screen. So well, you'll explain how we're going to do it, but
Yes.
because are all the people going to be in the frames? We take off the gallery and just, are we looking into camera, or are we looking at their face?
So for the moment, in the initial stage, I'm just going to be working with you individually, just in gallery view.
Okay.
So they're good, very, very good questions that you're asking, and they're the same questions I've been asking myself. So all I would say, if at this initial stage, and this may be possible or not, if you can position your camera so that you've got, as best as you can, a medium shot of yourself. Don't overly worry about it. If it's a bit of a problem and that's the best frame that you can get for yourself, that's fine. It's about as good as we need it to be. So initially what we'll do is, again, if you could just give me an idea, all of you, as to whether, best question to ask is anybody working on anything other than a laptop or a computer? Is there anybody here on an iPad?
I am.
You are, okay. So I just wanna, because I'm aware that people have a little bit of a different view potentially. So as much as you can here, Linny, a gallery view right at this point in time is going to be the best approach.
That's what I've got, okay.
That's fine, good. So, as I say, with repetition, for those of you who've been there at the introduction, we're looking at an exercise that starts off very simply, and as we go along, there are certain aspects that will change that repetition. But you know what, the best way to get an understanding of it is just simply to go straight into it. So, to begin with, all we're looking to do is making a concrete observation about our partner. Noticing them, taking a moment just to see where they are, and just the very experience of taking in your partner. If we start with, let's start with, Kate, why not? So Kate, if you want to unmute yourself.
I'm completely new at this, just to warn you.
That's fine. That's even better than in which case. So I'll take you very, very, very gradually through this process. It starts by two people repeating with each other. So in this case, it's myself and you, Kate. And it starts with one of us making a concrete, clear observation about the other person. Now, it's just simply something that is of interest to you about the person that you're looking at. So even at this stage, it all gets a little bit scary, and it's like, well, what am I meant to comment on? What can I comment on? What should I comment on? Yeah, exactly, and everything else. But without overthinking it too much, it's simply having a look, taking a moment, as I will now. You've got a grey top on. Now, there it is. Not the most exciting thing necessarily to observe. Because it's a repetition, Kate, I'm asking you to simply repeat what I've said to you. And what I mean is simply repeat the words. And this would be repetition at the very, very, very basic stage. So right. If I said...
But without blocking it, because it isn't a grey top.
Now, again, this is where it starts getting interesting already. So, no, don't apologize at all. You're absolutely right to have a concern as to whether or not the thing that I'm saying to you is true.
Right.
So it's a very good point that you make. All I would say is, for the beginning of a repetition, initially, give in a little bit to the observation that's being made, and accept it as the beginning of the game.
Right.
So if repetition is simply about repeating words, and I'm saying, you've got a grey top, and I was asking you to repeat that back to me, what would you say?
I've got a grey top.
But if I was asking you to repeat exactly what I've said to you, you've got a grey top, what would you say back to me?
You've got a grey top.
Right. Now, already, of course, because we're very quick studies, we know intuitively, really, how this game develops. Because your instincts have already kicked in, even without you knowing anything about this game, and we've called it repetition. and I've said to you, Kate, repeat exactly what I said, you've got a grey top, and you come back with, I've got a grey top, instinctively.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. It makes more sense than you simply saying to me, you've got a grey top, because even though maybe there may be a question about your grey top, I for sure do not have a grey top. Right. So now this sounds far more complicated talking about it than it actually is. But the reason I'm going into it in this level of detail is because it shows you the first change in a repetition. And the first change in a repetition is an honest answer.
Right.
So if repetition was simply repetition all the time, and I was to say, you've got brown hair, you'd come back to me and say, you've got brown hair. If it was just about repeating the words.
Okay.
But immediately we kind of intuit that, no, I'm making an observation about you, and you're taking it to be, you know, an honest observation that I've made of you. Okay, yes, I've got brown hair. Or, you've got a grey top.
You've got a grey top.
That would be the repetition. And then to make it an honest answer.
I've got a grey top.
Yeah. So there you go. That's it. That's the first change in repetition. We'll look at only another 3 changes to keep things simple as we go along.
So do you start with exactly the same words and then change it to become honest, or do you?
Yes. So you're taking that first observation. In all honesty, this is moving rather quickly through the initial stages. So in a formal repetition exercise, we'd start off with simply, you've got a grey top, you've got a grey top, you've got a grey top, you've got a grey top. I rather like to shortcut that in order so that we can simply move on and get somewhere a little bit more interesting, a little bit more quickly, but hopefully without missing too much out.
Right.
So I'm saying to you, you've got a grey top.
I've got a grey top.
You've got a grey top.
I've got a grey top.
You've got a grey top.
I've got a grey top.
You've got a grey top.
I've got a grey top.
You've got a grey top.
I've got a grey top.
Yeah, you've got a grey top.
Yeah, I've got a grey top.
Ah, yeah, you have got a grey top.
Yeah, I have got a grey top.
You have got a grey top.
I have got a grey top.
You have got a grey top.
I have got a grey top.
You have got a grey top.
I have got a grey top.
Yeah, you have got a grey top.
Yeah, I have got a grey top.
Yeah, you have got a grey top.
Yeah, I have got a grey top.
Right, so we'll stop there.
Yeah, I'm longing to say, no, it's green. When am I allowed to say that?
Right, now this is, Kate, you're the perfect person to be repeting with in order to make some of my points. So thank you for allowing me to bring you in as the first volunteer.
I'm the guinea pig.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now look, for you others observing, as well as those obviously participating as well, the thing to get your head round with repetition is that you are active observers. Now, by which I mean, it's easy for me to say, look, guys, there's something interesting going on here, so don't zone out while you're watching a repetition, although it's very, very, very difficult not to in the early stages. And you may just have to take it as an article of faith that there is something interesting to see here. But out of interest, and again, feel free to unmute yourselves at this point, everybody, because if you're simply all unmuting yourself at this stage, then I think we'll get something more interesting in terms of discovering what this repetition exercise is about. So, yep, feel free to unmute. Unmute, unmute, unmute. Let's break all the rules here. Go crazy. James, feel free to unmute. Unless you don't want to. No, it's fine. So, what I'm going to ask you is simply, was there anything of interest to see in what Kate and I were doing there? Yes, Yvonne.
I noticed that once you got through the repetition, Kate was actually mimicking your stance, your behaviour. When you leant forward, she leant forward. When you went back, she went back.
Right, that's an interesting thing to have noticed. Now, although repetition sounds like, and this may not have even been something that you were doing consciously, Kate, repetition may sound as if it's something where you're looking to mimic the person that you're repeating with. It's actually a lot simpler than that. All you're looking to do, as Kate was very accurately doing, I have to say, is repeat the words. So you've got a grey top, I've got a grey top. You've got a grey top, you've got a grey top. Yes, you've got a grey top. Yes, I've got a grey top. And you may have noticed that Kate immediately incorporated that new word that I brought in, and that became the repetition as we carried on forward. So to pick up on Yvonne's point, you might indeed, because we're creatures of habit, we might indeed find ourselves mimicking each other. That's certainly not part of the exercise, but it certainly may be something that starts to happen just because it does. So is there anything else that you could have observed between myself and Kate as we were repeating in that exercise? Yeah.
Just the changes in facial expression and emotion from sort of, there wasn't a lot going on and there was more, and there's full smiles. It sort of did a bit of a dip. It shifted quite a bit. Yeah.
Can you explain that further a little bit? Because you're absolutely on the right lines there.
Well, I don't want to read into what I saw, but what I saw was, as even when you added the yes, I think then Kate got a little bit more animated and lively, but as you got more animated, it was almost like infectious. And then there was a point where she was frowning and got very quiet, and then you followed suit after that. So there were the words, and then there was what was going on.
That's very, very well put indeed. So again, what we're looking, when you're an observer, and when I say you're looking to be an active observer, that's exactly what you're looking out for. You're looking to see what's going on in terms of the behavior between two people. On the surface of things, it's not very exciting. Let's be straightforward about it. You're making an observation and you're making it again and again and again, and the person's repeating it back to you. But if you notice, there's something going on between the two of us. Now, in order, if you like, to sell this exercise to you, you want to know, well, what application does this have to acting? What's the good of it? What's the purpose of it? How is this going to make me a better actor? It just seems like a weird little parlor game, like a party game. Any ideas as to what it's looking to do at a fundamental level here?
Sorry.
Yeah, go on, Tony first and then James afterwards, yeah.
Making you more aware of the other person, being more sensitive to them and their physicality, as well as what they're saying and the body language.
Yes, absolutely.
I found
Yes, absolutely. You're sharpening up. You've got one person to look at. It's very, very simple at the base level in terms of the words, but clearly there's something going on above and beyond just the words. And even there, obviously, it's an exercise in accurately hearing what somebody is saying. You've got to be on the ball because it might change. So, yep, that's a good observation. James?
Yeah, I would say it's far more to do with the subtext, really. The words really aren't very important. And well, they say, the behavioural experts say that communication is only 7% words anyway, and it's mostly body language and tone that people are communicating. So yeah, and so there's a relationship forming. You start to see a relationship,
right.
And there might be doubt, there might be a little bit of suspicion, there might be a little bit of, and there's more things going on, the subtext underneath the lines, and that's naturalism. As far
absolutely. So if you have an exercise that is forcing you, if you like, it's a harsh word, but it's a reasonable one, forcing you into making a connection with somebody. Now, there's not a lot else to hang on to here. In other words, I know it's not the same thing as a scene. It clearly isn't. There's not a lot of useful, clever dialogue. But for our purposes as actors, that's a useful thing. At the very, very basic stage, if you've got an exercise that is repeatedly reminding you that your partner is of interest, there is always something of interest in the person that you're with. And that's where your attention should be, by default, immediately. It's an easy thing to say, And for me as a teaching coach, I know, and as an actor, it's an easy thing to say, but it's a lot harder to do. Say, for example, when you're on a film set and you've got to make an immediate connection with somebody, a real connection, an authentic connection, not a fake one, not an acted one, but a real live connection with somebody who perhaps you don't know anything about. And remember, a camera especially can pick that up, because a camera picks up everything. Therefore, at this very, very early stage, as simple as it is, it's an exercise that's reminding you that there is something interesting in front of you. It sounds like a silly thing to have to remind yourself as an actor, but actually it's one of the most essential things to remind yourself about as an actor, because in reality, so many other things come into play in a not very useful way when you're on location or in a scene. It's nerve-wracking, it's terrifying, you feel self-conscious, there are cameras everywhere, there are people going backwards and forwards. And we know that being on stage can be a nerve-wracking experience as well. And yet, you know, hopefully also we'll be aware that when we have our best experience as actors, we're not really aware of ourselves. That seemed to be a reasonable thing to say without going into the sort of the mystery of it. And, you know, it's a straightforward thing, isn't it? The less self-conscious you are, the better off you're going to be as an actor. So again, at a basic stage, this exercise is saying, look at the person in front of you. There's something interesting about them. So again, if I'm staying with Kate, you've got wavy hair.
Got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yep, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yep, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yeah, I've got wavy hair.
Yes, you've got wavy hair.
Yep, I've got wavy hair.
Yep, you've got wavy hair.
Yep, I've got wavy hair.
Yeah, you've got wavy hair.
Yep, I've got wavy hair.
Yes, you do. You've got wavy hair.
Yes, I do. I've got wavy hair.
Okay, we'll stop there for a moment. Now, that may have felt like an interminable period of time, especially perhaps if you're observing it. But can you see, again, anything interesting that's going on there between the two of us? Can you see really, at the very, very basic level, where this exercise might be taking us? Hopefully to somewhere interesting. So again, feel free to unmute yourselves. Sarah, you feel like you're on the verge.
Okay, yeah. It kind of feels mildly flirtatious.
Oh, interesting. Really? Maybe. Why do you say that?
Because because you're focusing so much on the other person. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? When we connect with someone on that level, we are really focusing in on them, and you know, you create that bubble around you, don't you? So yeah, I mean, it just kind of seems like one of the building blocks on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really important thing to point out. So look, you've picked up something that's flirtatious. Now that's really odd. I mean, obviously we're both very attractive people, you and I, Kate, so who can blame us for flirting with each other, of course. But nonetheless, it's making the point, as you very rightly said, that once you're exercising a connection with somebody, a connection through a simple, silly game, but a game nonetheless that is forcing you into a simple point of contact, something else has to come about. There is, as James was pointing out, a subtext to what's taking on between the two of us. Not one necessarily that's intentional, but there has to be somewhere for us to go as human beings as we go along. We don't quite know where it's going to go. So the fact that you pointed out that there was a flirtatious quality between the two of us, you're right. It's the exercise that's forcing that situation upon us to some degree. And that's as it should be. because this is an artificial situation.
Well, there's obviously extreme eye contact and a lot of smiling. You know, that smiling can be as much a defense as it can be I don't know. It can be a defense.
Like a sort of I like you. In actual fact, it could also be you're making me nervous and I'm smiling it off. Yeah, absolutely. So again, you're right. What we're looking to do here is not so much worry about not worry about at all, really, what the byproduct of this relationship is, because we've got a simple activity that we're looking to do, that we're really doing. It's the rules are very straightforward. Making an observation about somebody and moving into this repetition. The repetition's changed to make it honest, to make it truthful up to a point at least. You've got wavy hair, I've got wavy hair. You've got wavy hair, I've got wavy hair. The sheer repetition of it, the fact that it's yes, okay, yes, 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 unless you become robotic, something else is going to come from it. So you picked up flirtation, you picked up nervous smiles, maybe something like that.
They can be nervous, can't they? We smile for all sorts of reasons. I mean, as I say, it can very often be a defense. It can be, I'm a nice person, be nice to me, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be, I really like the look of you and therefore I'm smiling as a consequence. Do you know what I mean? That there are all manner of reasons why we smile. And you can't, because your layers of you are being stripped away. I think that the smiling defense, that's what I find whenever I do this myself. I end up smiling and trying to be lovely and nice and don't hate me and all of that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's what it's doing is it's bringing you out as a person as the exercise moves forward. And to begin with, that can feel somewhat exposing. And as it should do a little bit, there should be a degree of discomfort because, of course, there's nothing to hide behind. So very often as actors, if we've got something more sophisticated to work with, like a scene with lots of dialogue, we know there's a jokey line here and a serious line here, well, we can act it. We can hide behind it. And we might feel as if we're giving a really good performance, a good acted performance. But at the end of the day, it's really just a manufactured thing. We might even be doing it very well, but there's still something that's not quite alive about it, something that's not quite unexpected. You know, we've rehearsed this role, we've fallen back on it, we know how the dialogue's meant to be said, and we stick to it thinking that we've got the best way of saying these lines, and we do them the same way every single time.
Does this do you think, this creates a condition where the unexpected can occur? Because that's what we're looking for. That's
right. So given that that's a good point to move on, and it'll give you a chance, Kate, as well. And again, I'll work with somebody. So I'll just work. I think it's worth working with the four of you before we then get into groups separately, so we can sort of properly experience this with somebody other than myself. So Linny, if I move on to you, and right, okay. So you, all right, okay. Good. I'm just going to take some time out, have a look at you. You've got twinkly eyes.
I've got twinkly eyes. Or am I doing you've got twinkly eyes?
We'll move on. We'll cut that first stage. So you're right. Go with your instincts and make it just simple. You've got twinkly eyes. I mean, you have.
You've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you have. You've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I have twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you have. You have twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I have twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you have. You've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I have twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you have. You've got twinkly eyes.
Yeah, I have twinkly eyes.
Yeah, you have twinkly eyes.
I have twinkly eyes.
You're upset.
I'm upset.
You're upset.
I'm upset.
You're really upset.
I'm really upset. You're concerned.
Yeah, I'm concerned.
You're concerned.
I am concerned.
You're concerned.
I'm concerned. Okay, now already we're moving quicker than we could possibly imagine. So let's hold on. But a good response. So now what we have to do is just break down what we've seen here. So I'll ask somebody else other than yourself, Linny. So let's again unmute ourselves and let me hear from somebody who can break down what was going on there, or what they saw is what I mean. Any feelings? What was taking place there between the two of us?
Well, Linny was beginning to take control back, whereas I was leaving you with full control of following the exercise.
Oh, interesting. Okay. In what way?
Because she was beginning to say her own words and you were following her words.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And yeah, I absolutely. So we can see the repetitions changing there somewhat. I mean, in the initial stages, it was fairly accurate, really, but something happened that was quite noticeable, it seemed to me, as best as I could see it. So what was that? I suppose that's what I'm interested in. You're absolutely right, though, Kate. Yes, as we move further along, it got a little bit looser, didn't it, in terms of repeating the actual words. Although to begin with, Linny was very, again, good to pick up on the words that I'd introduced in order to keep that repetition a repetition, if you like. But something interesting happened there. Linny, go on, why not?
I just wanted to say, I don't know if I wasn't supposed to then comment on yours, but at that point I didn't want to stop and ask you if I should, so I just did it. So
it's interesting with repetition. I'm always trying to rein it back in to keep it simple. But of course, because some of you will have had some experience and some of you will be very instinctive and quick studies in any case. So actually you're moving the exercise on exactly where it's meant to go.
Okay.
Just probably too quickly, which is fine. No, it's fine and it's uncontrollable and I wouldn't want it any other way. But what I'll gently do again is still rein us back in a little bit, which will be frustrating, but for good reason. But it's good, nonetheless, it's great to have this as an example. Yvonne, yes?
I could see a story developing. I don't know if the story is supposed to develop. Through the observations, I can see a story developing and she was responding to you.
You look, absolutely right. If there isn't a story going on between two people, well, what is there of any interest to see here? Now, that's not to say that you're looking to manipulate the exercise to make it interesting. Because again, even saying that, it might make us suddenly go, oh, well, hang on a second. This repetition can't just be boring. There's got to be something going on. What we're trying to point out with this exercise is even keeping it simple, in other words, making the point of connection between two people a simple thing, making the observation a simple thing, something interesting will come from it anyway.
I'm just going to be Megan's speakerphone because she's saying she can't unmute herself as her son is cutting the hedges, but she's been sending comments. So
okay, saying, yes.
Thanks, Leonie. She could see an emotional reaction to some of the things you said to Linny, and she wonders if there is an instinctive reaction to a memory that it invoked.
Now, this is interesting, and it's quite possible, and it's a good point to have made. I wouldn't, in a million years, want to go into the psychoanalysis part of any exercise at any level with myself or anyone else. We know, of course, that we're human beings, people with all sorts of feelings, but clearly there's something very simple going on, and yet also equally clearly there was an emotional response. Now, as best as I can put it, an emotional response simply comes from two people having an authentic connection, by which I mean, you are actually saying something to somebody. So, if I was to simply say to Linny, you've got twinkly eyes, you've got twinkly eyes, you've got twinkly eyes like a robot, it might be sort of falling in line with the repetition, but there's nothing real about it. So the observation I'm simply making is it's a genuine one. It's something real I've noticed about Linny, that you've got twinkly eyes. Now, as soon as somebody realizes that they're being talked to for real, it opens them up for an honest and real response. It's kind of a stupidly obvious thing to say. But the point of it is that very rarely, or not as often as we'd like, in acting, are we actually saying something to somebody and really meaning it. You might say, again, keeping it simple, you've got a line of dialogue, not very exciting, you know, I love you more than the world itself, some hokey bit of dialogue like that. It's hard to make that real in any case. But the acting challenge there, were you to have a bit of ropey dialogue like, you know, I love you more than the world itself, is to say it to somebody and mean it. Does that make sense? To really say it to them as if you cared one way or the other, whether they believed you, whether they thought you were sincere, whether you're being ironic with them, whether you're not being serious with them. Now, what this exercise is doing at a basic level is for you to practice saying something to somebody for real, so that you've made a connection. It doesn't have to be profound, nor does it have to be very, very personal. Because again, this is where repetition goes wrong, and this may have been something of your experience, Tony, perhaps, but you know, where a repetition sort of simply becomes some kind of bullying exercise, where you're looking to sort of make somebody feel insecure about themselves in order to get a response from them. It's not about that. Nonetheless, for me to simply say to Linny, you've got twinkly eyes, and for her to take that on as a real comment, eventually, a little way through that repetition, it brought on an emotional response from Linny. And that's of interest. It's not one that's been manipulated, it's simply that's coming from us practicing a very straightforward and simple, very simple connection between the two of us. That may be a complicated way of saying something very simple, but it may not sound like, well, yeah, and so what? Well, it's everything. Because what you want as an actor is to have an immediate, real connection with somebody, so that it wouldn't even occur to you to say a line of dialogue to somebody without actually meaning it, rather than going for a manufactured delivery of a line. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make some connections here between this exercise, even at this basic level, and how it might apply to acting, and how it might improve us as actors. And that's, believe me, just one of the ways it might do that. So again, if I move on to Yvonne, and we'll, again, as I say, we'll get two people working together in a moment. You look kind of sad.
I am kind of sad.
No, again, that is a reasonable response to have, but it's moving in towards conversation, although it's a reasonable response. If we're keeping with the rules of the repetition, initially, I'm gonna, if you like, force you just to keep very pedantically to repeating what I've said.
Right, okay.
You look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
Now make it an honest answer. So it's about you. You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
Yeah, I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
Yeah, I look kind of sad.
You look kind of sad.
I look kind of sad.
Yeah, you look kind of sad.
Yeah, I look kind of sad.
Okay, we'll stop there for a moment. So, again, feel free to unmute yourselves. What's going on there between the two of us? Or what do you see? There's no wrong answers here necessarily. It's no trick question. What are you looking at? And it might not be the same thing for everybody. What is there going on between me and Yvonne there?
And so I had to the loop listening. And in hearing, it was like, I think Yvonne was really getting sad. I just thought that you were making her sad by saying she was sad.
yeah. I'd hate to be in a situation where the point of going to a class is to make somebody sad. Nonetheless, you are absolutely right, and hopefully you'll have seen that. Now, the question is, well, why is that happening, if indeed that's happening? I mean, did anybody else see that to a degree, or?
Yes, I saw her getting sad.
It also seemed like Yvonne was retreating into the sadness a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making, so it's, again, this is where, even at this very, very simple level, it's a mnemonic response. It's kind of like a Pavlovian response, you know, Pavlov's dog, and you do something enough times and it's like Derren Brown territory, where you say something enough to somebody and eventually becomes true. Yeah. So look, to take away all the mystery out of this exercise, yeah, that's part of it. Why pretend? It is. If you say something enough to somebody, I mean, ideally it's based on something that you're really seeing. You may have got it wrong, but okay, give it a go. You look kind of sad. I look kind of sad. But the more you say that, the more it allows somebody to open up to it, to that feeling. And I'm being cagey here, but was that your experience, Yvonne? And I wouldn't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I did find the words were making me feel sad. So I've never experienced that before, so that was quite good for me.
Well, that's a great thing for you then, in which case, and a great thing, you know, for all of us, because again, if through a simple trick of sorts, by repeating something to somebody, and you see, it's a practice for me, because to say to somebody you look kind of sad is actually quite a difficult thing to say, because, you know, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, and you also don't want to make somebody feel awkward. Nonetheless, you know, if you could say the same thing just as easily if somebody's got a big smile on their face, you know, you look kind of happy. And oddly enough, you'll still have the same result. Because people can find it difficult to open up to sadness as much, guess what, as they find it difficult to open up to happiness and open up to anger. And that's it. Those are all the three, that's the human condition in one go. Mad, glad, sad, angry, happy, sad. And obviously for us to be more familiar with those feelings, that's got to be a good thing.
Megan is asking whether the rhythm in the response is of any importance.
Whether the rhythm of the response is of any importance. Right. It certainly is in the sense that if in a repetition you hear somebody going, you look kind of sad, I look kind of sad, you look kind of sad, I look kind of sad, you look kind of sad, I look kind of sad, you look kind of sad, I look kind of sad, you look kind of sad, I look kind of sad. Now, if you've got a repetition that sounds like a metronome, just banging backwards and forwards, that's an issue, because it means that all people are doing is robotically saying a repetition without realizing that it's an opportunity to say something to somebody for real. So to put it another way, there should be a moment of processing time between something you say to somebody and them repeating what you've then said. I know it's very basic at the moment, but it was happening there between myself and Yvonne. So you look kind of sad, she heard me. I look like she was taking it in. I look kind of sad. You look kind of sad. I look kind of sad. In terms of rhythm, and this is talking about a repetition after the event, but you'll notice this during repetitions. If somebody stops for a long period of time, if there's a long pause, then that might well indicate that they're resisting something. Not to say that they definitely are. It could be that they're just very emotionally affected by something and they can't even get the words out. That's fine. But you'll notice as an observer, and again, this is where I am constantly reminding people that within a repetition exercise, the people watching a repetition exercise may even be learning more than the people doing the repetition exercise. You know, this sounds like me trying to sell the idea that look, honestly, you can have as much fun sitting down watching this silly exercise as you can doing it, but it's a fact. Because the more you watch a repetition, the more you start going, why has somebody stopped there? Why aren't they simply repeating it? And of course, when you're observing it, you're not in a dangerous place, so it doesn't feel as dangerous. You're not being observed, so you're free to see what's actually going on. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's great to, when you're looking at a repetition, you can, if you like, and we might have a look at this later on, is pick somebody out in the repetition who you are repeating with in your head. In other words, pick one of the repeating partners while you're observing and imagine to yourself, well, what would my response be here to this person? What am I getting from this person? What are they giving me? I'll just focus on this one person and I'll sit here and I'll see, well, what am I getting? Not in the repetition. And that's such a useful way to benefit from watching repetition, because you'll notice that there are all sorts of things that you pick up as an observer. I mean, emotional things. You start getting really involved because you'll start going, well, why has this person just said this or not noticed this? What are they holding back on? What are, you know, why are they not giving anything of themselves? What's the danger here? Why are they so scared? And all manner of different things. But that was a nice example of a very simple repetition where, yes, you're bringing a quality out of somebody. And yes, there's a question of rhythm, but as far as two people repeating is concerned, look, why would you be worrying about rhythm at that stage? Because what you're looking to do is practice a real, authentic connection with somebody. Can you say something to somebody and can you let it land on them so that they take it on board, so that you've got to them, so that they understand that what you're saying you really mean? And you, as I've discovered, it's something you have to practice. It's like the scales of a piano. It's like if you want to become a ballet dancer, well, you're not going to go straight into Swan Lake. It just doesn't work that way. You need to practice aspects of it before you get that sensitivity, that quality. And this is one very, very simple way of doing it. And here we've only looked at one change in the repetition, really, although Linny, you and I were moving on a little bit more quickly there. The honest answer. You look kind of sad. I look kind of sad. You look kind of sad. I look kind of sad. Now, we're then looking towards another change in the repetition, which is something that Kate noticed earlier on, which is, well, you know, isn't there a point at which I'm actually going to have a difference of opinion here? And there may be. Point of view is another way that the repetition can change. That, if you like, that's the third way. There are 4 stages to this. But we'll look at the second stage just before we get to that. And again, you'll have picked up on this already, perhaps, which is the pile up. So an honest response, very straightforward. You've got a brown top on, I've got a brown top on, instead of you've got a brown top on, you've got a brown top on. The pile up. The repetition, you're constantly saying something to somebody. You've got twinkly eyes, I've got twinkly eyes, you've got twinkly eyes, I've got twinkly eyes. Eventually it gets to a point where organically the repetition should change, and that's where you are free to change it. That might sound a little bit vague, and again, it'll be more obvious perhaps if we have a look at it in terms of a practice. where it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this repetition has to change here. The waters have to break. It's just too repetitious. I can't bear it anymore. I refuse to do this stupid game. I'm going to break out of it. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's have a look then, in which case. Sarah, let's take a go at this. So Sarah, if you want to unmute yourself. You're a cheerful person.
I'm a cheerful person.
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 Yeah, you're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you are. You're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I am. I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you are. You're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I am. I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you are. You're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I am. I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you are. You're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I am. I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, you're a cheerful person.
Yeah, I'm a cheerful person.
Yeah, okay. You're a cheerful person.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? You're all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you are. You're all over the place.
Yeah, I am. I'm all over the place.
Oh, yeah, you are. You're all over the place.
Yeah, I am. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
You're a very chuckly person.
Yeah, I'm a very chuckly person.
You are a very chuckly person.
I am a very chuckly person.
You are a very chuckly person.
I am a very chuckly person.
You are a chuckly person.
I am a chuckly person.
You are a chuckly person.
I am a chuckly person.
You are a chuckly person.
I am a chuckly person.
Yeah, you're getting quite quiet.
Yeah, I'm getting quite quiet.
Yeah, you're quiet.
Yeah, I'm quiet.
Yeah, you're quiet.
Yeah, I'm quiet.
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 Unsure of yourself.
Unsure of myself.
Yeah, you're unsure of yourself.
Yeah, I'm unsure of myself.
Yeah, you're unsure of yourself.
Yeah, I'm unsure of myself.
You are. You're unsure of yourself.
I am. I'm unsure of myself.
You are. You're unsure of yourself.
I am. I'm unsure of myself.
Yeah, you're unsure of yourself.
Yeah, I'm unsure of myself.
Yeah, you don't care about it.
Yeah, I don't care about it.
No, you don't care about it.
No, I don't care about it.
No, you don't care about it.
No, I don't care about it.
No, you don't care about it.
No, I don't care about it.
You're okay. You don't give a shit about it.
Yeah, okay. I don't give a shit about it.
No, you don't. Okay, we'll stop there. So already it's too many things. Too many things. Oh, already. I mean, you know, this is taking it on a little bit too far. So there might be all manner of things to say there. What I wanted to do, but if we go back earlier on, there's really a point there that, okay, so honest answer, straightforward enough. This pile-up idea, this idea that the repetition gets to a point where one of us wants to break it. I probably should have I was getting to a point there where I was going, well, you know, yeah, you're a cheerful person, but there's something else going on here, and I just want to get out and say it. But it changed again, so we kind of moved on to something else. And it was a quality that I was getting there from Sarah, that it was like, yeah, you're a cheerful person, because she seemed that way initially. But it was like, no, actually there's something there that she's unsure. She's unsure about something. She's uncertain. She's confused. It could be any manner of different things. So remember, it's not that there's one absolutely right answer to any of this. All you're looking to do is exercise an ability to make a straightforward observation, a concrete observation, not guesswork, something that you can see externally from somebody and go, yeah, okay, this is a reasonable observation about somebody. Something of interest, something that you find of interest in the other person. The weird thing is, even that can be difficult in terms of a repetition, because you'll be going, well, what is there to say about this person? I mean, I'll try and find something interesting about them, but they're staring at me like they're a zombie that's just rolled out of The Walking Dead. And quite frankly, you know, I mean, if they're not engaged, well, why should I bother? All sorts of things could suddenly spring up that could stop the exercise right there and then. But of course, there's always something interesting to say about somebody if you're given that as a job to start the repetition off with. Just a simple observation. But as it goes on, because you're having to repeat the same thing backwards and forwards, of course, that exercise elicits a change in somebody. It can't not do. You know what I mean? It's a silly trick in a way, but it's an important one. Yvonne, yeah. So
this exercise, the words are supposed to evoke some emotions, different sort of emotions. Is that right?
Yes, but it's not something you need to worry about. In other words, were we to think about it too much, it'd be like, okay, so I know what this exercise is meant to do, and therefore, you know, I'll throw in an emotion because I think that's how the game's meant to be played. But you're right, it is. I know. I think I understand.
It doesn't come. You're not supposed to. It should come automatically, not you. Yeah.
That's exactly the point. Now, the reason that you have to have a little bit of trust here is because you'll think as a participant that it's such a silly, repetitive game that it can't be very interesting to do, and it certainly can't be very interesting to watch. But you've got to break through that. In other words, as somebody who's repeating, you've got to not care about what you think other people may be worrying about when they're watching the repetition. Stick to the rules initially and stick to them, you know, strictly initially if you can.
So this will, if you're doing script work, this will help you doing script work because when you're saying the words, you're listening more intently, and then
So this is the question, because again, to sell repetition as an exercise to anybody, to make it of interest to them, Yvonne's question must be answered, and it must be answered clearly. Otherwise, it's like, I've got better things, quite frankly, to do with my time than this. You know what I mean? I want to go back and read a book or study a play or get better at text analysis. But the point of it is the very fact that what is of interest when you're watching a film and you're watching two actors is whether or not they are authentically there with each other in the moment. Spontaneous. So all of those little words that I threw in, you know, to sort of put across this course are the very things, the qualities that seem rather difficult to get as an actor. You know, look, we understand text analysis. We know we look at a text but my God, that's something that's very, very important, and you need somebody who can help you with that in order for you to get better at it. Nonetheless, the thing that we get better at as actors that we like watching is a real connection between us and our partner.
Yeah.
Therefore, we want a conditioning exercise, and that's what repetition is. It's conditioning. Look, if you want big muscles and a six-pack like I haven't got, then you know that, I'm afraid to say, you can't just, you know, read a book about it. You've got to do the sit-ups. You've got to do the squats. And it's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. It's not going to happen in a month or 2 months. 6 months of a regular routine, squats, and so people tell me, and sit-ups apparently gives you a six-pack, right? What we want as actors is to be in the moment, present, interested in our partner, not worried about where the scene is going, not worried about, at that stage, not worried about if we know our lines, because it isn't going to help us. It's too late. And there must be something more interesting than just watching two actors trying to remember their lines, because they think as long as they get all the words in the right order, it's going to be fine and people will have a good time watching this thing. No, I guarantee you they won't. In fact, you'd be better off not remembering your lines and having a real moment, because that's what we watch. And if you like, that's what I am selling to you as transparently as I can. But it's a difficult sell, this, because initially it seems like a rather kind of dull exercise. But as we move along, it's got a structure to it. And does it require some, discipline and, can't quite think of the word, tenacity, something that keeps us going at it, drive? Yeah, it does. It does. Is it something that really will help us find out something more about ourselves? Will it make us less inhibited? Will it put us in connection, in contact with ourselves and with our acting partner? For goodness sake, if you've got an exercise that puts you in contact with yourself and with your acting partner, that's got to be good. What do we mean by that? Because even that sounds a little bit actory. Well, in touch with your emotions. Honestly, how do you honestly feel at this point in time? Because unless you're honest with yourself initially, then unless you're at ease with being yourself, well, why would anybody else believe you? You want to be in a place where you're straightforward and open to stimulus. And this exercise is constantly kind of banging the nail into the wall and saying, look, it's about the other person. It's about the other person. The emotional side will come from a real connection between two people, from a real connection. So we've looked there at the first two changes in repetition. We haven't even moved on to the next two. Although, again, with myself and Sarah, you're already addressing the next two changes in repetition as well. The next two being a point of view, where as the repetition goes along, you have a particular point of view. And because your point of view becomes like, I'm going to have to say this. I've got no choice. The repetition changes because you blurt it out. And then lastly, behavior, which pretty much covers everything else. And these are the changes that you're looking for as you repeat with your repeating partner. So before I perhaps give you an opportunity and pair you up, those of you who are participating, any questions so far? Anything that seems a little bit mysterious or frustrating or difficult to understand about this exercise? And there may be something. Yeah.
Sorry, this is quite basic. Number 3 is point of view and number 4 is behavior. So what are numbers 1 and 2?
Yeah, so just to go over again, and again, this is where to break down this exercise as clearly as I can into 4 bits. And again, you're right to ask the question, Sarah. The first change, as basically as we can put it, is an honest answer. You know, where you're saying something to somebody and they're going, okay, this is a truthful comment about me, fine. You've got wavy hair, I've got wavy hair. You've got no hair, I've got no hair. You've got no hair, I've got no hair. And on it goes. So an honest answer. The next one, then we're looking at, oh my God, look, I've had a moment there. So my mind wandered for a second there. We're starting with an honest answer, and then you're looking at a point of view, a change. To be honest, look, the reason I'm sort of pausing here a little bit for thought is because it's not that they have to take place in this sequential order. They can actually come out in any order. With repetition as an exercise, it's something you learn more from doing rather than talking about, which is why I'm trying to be a bit cagey. And so simplifying it can even make it sound a bit more complicated than it really is. But you've got an honest answer, a pile up, where the repetition, let's have it in that order just for the sake of argument, where because the repetition becomes so repetitive, it's like, okay, enough of this already, enough. I've got to change the repetition because I can't bear it. I don't want you to say, you've got no hair, I've got no hair, you've got no hair, I've got no hair, you've got no hair. You're an idiot. I'm an idiot, you're an idiot. A reasonable place to go after somebody's told me again and again and again that I've got no hair. And that's the pile up. It just becomes so frustrating. You've got to change the repetition, but keep it organic. A point of view where you have a very specific point of view about something. And again, that forces a change in the repetition. And lastly, and it's really it covers almost everything, behavior. But that's a big one. Behavior, a change in what you're seeing in somebody, a change in how they come across to you based on how they are behaving. So for example, if Linny's rubbing her eyes, that might make me think, well, you're tired, I'm tired, you're tired. If James is has his, if I do a sort of a bad imitation like this, I might say he's judging me. Now, that sounds very personal. He may not be judging me at all. He just may be very, very bored, or he may be fascinated with everything I'm saying. You see, it could be anything, but it comes from the behavior of somebody. And again, that's something you're looking to practice. And that's something that you can practice with repetition. What it's doing again is it's sharpening you up to take in your acting partner and have a response to them. Not an acted response, a proper emotional response. And on camera, that's critical. Not a response that you're manufacturing, but a real organic response that is coming from real stimulus that's coming at you. Because if it's something that's coming at you, then all the information you need, all the stimulus you need, is there, were you only to see it. And this is an exercise to train you constantly, rigorously, to see that there is something interesting going on in people all the time, always. And it's difficult to see sometimes because it's scary, because it feels awkward and uncomfortable. But the more you do it within the safe confines of the exercise, the more comfortable you are at being honest. And again, before briefly breaking you up into partners, just so that you can give us a little bit of a go yourself. And Leonie, what we'll look to do here is briefly put them into breakout rooms, and we'll just have a look in and see how they're doing, and then we'll come back again. But the best way of seeing repetition really is to see it, if you like, the reason we enjoy drama, comedy drama, doing a scene, doing a play, doing a film, is because it's imaginary, because it's not real. It gives us an opportunity. It's escapist in a sense, but very often as actors, it's actually the one time where we can be our real selves, to really express ourselves. Whereas in real life, very often actors are very shy people, not always, but can be, very sensitive at the very least. But it's a safe place to be sensitive when you're acting. That's what's so exciting about it. You can express things without consequence, without real consequence. You say something mean to somebody in a play, they're not going to think that you hate their guts. But for that very reason, you want to be straight with them. You want to really say something as if you really do hate their guts, because that's what the dialogue is telling you to say. You're not doing your acting partner any, you're not making it any better for them if you give them a pretend "I hate you" response. Be real with them. Why wouldn't you want to be? But that needs to be exercised. It's scary, even within an imaginary situation, to say something real to somebody, to say you love them, to say you hate them. So the exercise is imaginary in that sense. Sorry, Kate, go on. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to ask a quick question, and it came from the beginning when you were saying about waiting in the wings or waiting on set. So I have been hoping to sort of just be able to just completely I mean, waiting in the wings to me is much easier than waiting on set, because you do go into that place. But so this isn't something you can do on your own, is it, while you're waiting?
No. So to be, again, and it's a great question, because it's one of the big mysteries about repetition. This is something that I would be encouraging actors to do between the two of them, two actors who understand that, like, literally like going to a gym.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as you're with somebody, yeah, it's a priming exercise.
Yeah.
So you're doing this as an exercise, not while you're waiting in the wings or while you're waiting behind camera, because...
Yeah, no, I took it too literally. I thought literally that's...
No, it's a really good point that you've made, because it's very often the confusion that's made with repetition. It's not to say that in theory, were you to be on set and another actor came from a particular methodology and they understand how repetition works, and you want to go off and have a little bit of a repetition with them in order to sort of get loose and be connected, maybe. But in actual fact, to be honest, if you find yourself doing that by the time you get on set, then it's
too late.
You're missing the point. You're kind of in your head. What this is really there to do, were you as actors to accept the fact that this could genuinely help you and make you more open and less inhibited and more connected to your acting partner without any effort. That's what we're looking for. You want to get to a place where you've done all the work, you've trained like crazy, so that you can do this thing effortlessly. At the end of the day, what do you want to be thinking about when you're there with an acting partner on set? Well, ideally, nothing at all, quite honestly. Be in the unknown. What's going to happen next? Be in that place of be fearless, for the very reason that you know that your acting partner is leading the dance. Allow them to lead. Because everything that you need, you will get from them if you take them in, if you see them. Even on camera, even here, we can see it. It's a fact. It's evidential. You know whether or not somebody is with you. You know whether they're connected to you, and you know the quality of it. What this exercise is training you to do, in part, is to be straightforward about that and to take it personally. Take your acting partner personally immediately. Why would you not want to? If they're looking at you in a funny way, it should make you feel kind of funny. Why are they being funny with you? The scene will take care of itself at that point. You'll have learnt it as well as you can. You'll have done as much preparation on it as you've been able to. But now something new has to happen. And it's not a learned thing that you can simply bring in from the preparation that you've done, by which I mean the text analysis and the lesson learning, the line learning rather. So, shall we briefly give this a go and see what these breakout rooms are like?
Yes.
And what I'm looking to do here is, if Yvonne and Sarah, if we get you as a pair working off each other, and Linny and Kate.
Okay.
And I think, Leonie, if you're happy with that, we're going to move you in. Have you been in breakout rooms before, you guys? Okay, so this is where you're just going to find it's just the two of you. And you'll be working off each other. Now, the idea here, I think, really is, once you're in the breakout rooms, is to pin your acting partner. I'm being wary here, because this may be, out of all of our comfort zones when it comes to working the technology. But ideally, if you're able to pin your partner in this situation, it just means that you'll be looking at them rather than you being distracted by yourself, potentially. If not, don't worry too much about it. At the end of the day, there's only two of you there to be seen in a breakout room. And yeah, give it a go for 5 minutes. Won't be too intimidating at this stage. And then we'll just briefly feed back before we finish off and see how you've got along. And also hopefully answer any remaining questions that you might have. Does that sound okay? Shall we give it a go? My faith is in Leonie.
Linny, do you...
Philip, Yeah, sorry, are we just staying with one observation for the whole?
So I think at the moment that if you get up to a pile up, if you like, because I can see that it might not work chronologically in that order. No, if you feel that there's a change that's necessary in the repetition, that's fine. Go with that change. Okay. So on the basis of what we've set up until now, I don't want to be too, restrictive. Just see how you go along, and if a change comes, then go with the change. But initially, stay with the repetition for 30, 40 seconds and see how it acts upon you. And then allow a change to come.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to pop you in the breakout rooms. I have enabled the option that you can come back to the main session at any time. So if you feel like you have a problem or you're stuck, then you can come back and ask. Kate, you're right. It looked like you...
Yeah.
Cool.
All good. So we'll give us at least 5 minutes, if that sounds all right. So, I don't want you to sort of feel as if you're going to be lost out there in the wilderness forever. But see how you get along.
Okay. Right. I've invited you, I think, and you need to accept. Yes.
Very exciting.
And they're gone. No, Sarah's still here? Oh, there we go.
Sarah's gone too. So here we are. So we've got... And is this everybody here who's left? Tony, Maggie, James?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we can all unmic ourselves, and you can even, if you like, reveal yourselves, should you so wish, unless you feel as if it's just unbearable to show your faces. There it is. It's all good. Good. Back again. So, yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, Maggie and Tony. It's all good.
Okay.
Any questions from you guys about this? I'm kind of curious as to see how you've been getting along, just watching what's been taking place.
It's certainly more interesting than it was before when other experiences, because you're explaining it far better than it had ever been explained before. And although I did do a few classes with another woman who incorporated a bit of Meisner in as a bit of fun at the end. And it always ended up with her flirting with the guys, which I thought, oh, you know what I mean? It was just weird. And it was okay, but it was like, this isn't for me. But now I think, having looked at this, I'd like to do it in real life and physically rather than online, because I think it's kind of tricky trying to see if you're there and the other person's there, it's like you're going like this. And I can understand pinning someone because I do that in Daniel's classes. Yeah. But yeah, I will do it physically when we're allowed to meet up again.
I'm with you, Tony, completely. So the difficulties of this medium is that, well, for a start, it can't be a real connection, and as much as it's very difficult to look somebody in the eye when you're looking at a camera. And as you say, ideally, the stimulus you're looking for is everybody rather than just a sort of squared off frame. Yeah, I mean, I think the advantage of it, at least in terms of the framing, is that it does give you nowhere else to look, essentially. You know, you have no choice but to see what's going on in your partner, I suppose, at some level. But I'm pleased if it's come across more clearly than it has before.
Definitely.
That's my aim.
It's more exciting. I think it's an exciting thing to probably do now. But again, I'd rather do it in a physical way.
Yeah, so look, if you found somebody, let's say a teacher possibly, and all they're doing is like flirting with the male partners who are coming up to repeat, you'll notice, oddly enough, that's bad repetition, because what it means is, and for all the wrong reasons, you've got somebody pushing the repetition in a particular way.
I mean, I didn't say anything, but to me it just sounded like she was leading it to a certain way.
Yeah.
And the extent of like touching toes and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and you know what? If you were repeating with somebody like that, eventually, it generally, if you're being accurate, it would turn to being something like, "You're kind of creepy. I'm kind of creepy. Yeah, you're really creepy." Because eventually, it becomes a fake. They're flirting with somebody, and after a while, it's just like, "Okay, enough, please. I want this to change."
Yeah.
As quickly as possible.
Yeah,
you know,
I used to train with a Meisner teacher who always tried to steer the repetition into a conflict. He always wanted to create a fight. He always wanted us to be like, yeah, but tell her how you really feel about it. And
Oh
I'd
my
be
God,
like,
is it the same person?
maybe. And
Yeah.
I'm not angry at her. Why are you trying to tell me that I have to be angry just because you would be angry in this situation? And
yeah, that's exactly what I got from this guy.
sadly, there are a lot of, I feel like there are a lot of Meisner teachers out there who kind of tried to make the exercise their own, but then kind of forgot what it's really about.
Yeah.
Applying perhaps the idea that there is no drama unless there's conflict. Certainly on soap operas for sure. But you know, I mean, in general sense, I did a play once, a two-hander play, which ran for 3 weeks in London. And my playing partner, this actress Kelly, who was Australian, and she trained purely in Meisner. I think she'd done a 1 or 2 year Meisner training. And I really loved working with Kelly, and I never ever asked her how she used her Meisner skills to prepare our scenes. It's a two-hander scene. We're the only ones in it, and there's no other actors or roles to come in. And I trained in early 90s at purely Stanislavski, a drama college near London. We didn't do any Meisner at drama college at all. And the only experience I've got of Meisner prior to this was a 2 or 3 hour workshop at the Tron Theatre in Glasgow, where I just kind of started to get the gist of it, really. But the teacher was marvellous. Her name was Sally Field, I remember, and she'd been trained by Meisner himself, apparently. And we were just doing these repetition exercises, and after a while I thought, well, I'm starting to kind of understand how this works. But then it made me think of Kelly and think back, 5 years ago it is now that we, as I say, had a long run doing this play, and I'm wondering how she would utilize her Meisner training and Meisner skills in her scenes with me, which I never obviously did with her. We were doing it, and we're doing the scenes in class, we're rehearsing the scenes, but...
Well, I mean, to be honest, James, I mean, for me, and I've been, I went to Central and did a sort of a more conventional course in some Stanislavski and some of this and some of that, and then spent a couple of years more specifically concentrating on the Meisner approach. But it's a lot of the Meisner methodology is Stanislavski based, but
Phil, I'm just conscious of time because it's 1:30 now. Should we get the ladies back?
Yes. Okay. Just give me just 30 seconds.
One question.
And Maggie. Yep.
I did a very brief sort of Meisner course, donkeys years ago. Too long to even contemplate. And I seem to remember we actually pushed each other. We actually.
Eventually, if you're moving on from repetition, it will eventually become an improvisation, which will involve potential contact between two people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
would that be kind of lab-esque then? And kind of lab, you physicalize your verbs.
It was. So we started with the repetition, and then we started getting physical. Yes.
That could be somebody taking a little bit of a spin on the Meisner technique as well and bringing their own ideas into it.
Okay.
Because it sounds a little bit Michael Chekhov that as well, and a bit Laban, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting,
yes.
Maggie.
Yes. Yeah.
You're bringing them back.
Yes.
The mysteries of Zoom.
It's like suddenly Doctor Who.
What a time to be alive.
We've got a time to be alive, exactly, yeah.
We would have a sort of a little thing to go with it when you bring them back.
We should do, like a transition kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, we've got 2 of them back.
They don't.
We early. We came back early.
Yeah, when I say the rooms are closing, it gives them 60 seconds to come back. So
we've got another 60 seconds, Linny. Let's go back.
We've got another 60 seconds. It's too late.
I think we accomplished a lot, though.
We did.
Good. Well, so okay, so let's start with Linny and Kate. Let's start with you two. How did it go?
Linny made me cry.
I made you cry.
Yeah. It was brilliant. But
Sounds like a good response.
I left Linny to do all the I wanted to start talking to her, but I didn't. I don't know when you can or can't do that.
Right. Now, again, this is something organically that one has to find out, and there aren't hard and fast rules. It's just that there are rules that it would be suggested that you keep the repetition going for 20 or 30 seconds before perhaps you change it. As to who starts the repetition, well, it doesn't matter. It's nice, obviously, if once the repetition takes place and then you decide to stop it, then somebody else starts up the repetition and you go from there. So it's fine to let somebody take the lead and see where it ends up. What was the repetition, just out of interest? Did you do just the one, or did you do 2 initial starting observations, or?
There were a few pile-ups, I'll have to confess. But Kate's got so much going on in her face. So, but it started with, you've got a big smile.
Right.
And then it turned to tears. And so, well.
that sounds like a very good place to go. Usually as an indicator, it's as soon as you've made a real observation about somebody, then that opens up the floodgates, because it's just great to be seen honestly and openly. And of course the floodgates mean you don't quite frankly know which way it's going to go. It could be hysterical laughter, maybe, or it could be tears, or it doesn't have to be either one of those. But it's interesting that you can get very quickly to quite a high emotional place without even trying. That's a really exciting thing to have found out.
That was because of working with Linny, I feel.
Well, we know each other and have we care about each other a lot and respect each other. Well, we love each other, probably.
Well, look, in which case, guys, given that this is a conditioning exercise and this comes out with repetition partners, you'll find, and it's, all sorts of people bring different things out and different actors. But if you happen to know each other already, and you find somebody who can really bring a quality from you that others can't, and differing qualities, that's a great repetition partner to have, because if you keep on practicing these things, of course, eventually, guess what? You don't have to act them. They become second nature. They become conditioned. And you find yourself, whereas previously you might have been the sort of person who finds it difficult to laugh authentically, or difficult to get angry authentically, or difficult to be sad authentically. All of us have one of those things that we find more of a grind, more difficult as actors, more difficult to get to for real. I'm not talking about an active response, if you like. I'm talking about an authentic one. Even if one was to dangerously make a differentiation between genders, which I'd have to be able to do given I've seen so many people involved in repetition, and this is a very broad generalization. In repetition, women find it more difficult to get authentically angry, and men find it more difficult to get authentically sad. It's a big generalization, because God knows there's exceptions to that rule left, right, and center. But I think that's a very simplistic way of putting across something perhaps rather obvious, which is that all of us, for whatever reason, have things that we'd rather not do. We're non-confrontational, or we quite honestly find it difficult to enjoy ourselves very easily, or laugh out loud without being given very definitely the right circumstances. And this exercise is there to tease those things out at you and say, look, it's okay. And if you're doing it again and again, then of course, hopefully by default, you won't have to reach so much as an actor. They'll be there for you. You'll be affected more by the circumstances. It'll seem like, wow, it's suddenly come a lot more easily to me now than it would have done otherwise. And that's because of a conditioning exercise. If if you take on repetition as a conditioning exercise, that exercises the muscles that other exercises can't reach.
Can I just comment? It's just what I found interesting was doing that with someone who I know, who happens to be quite open also, was in a way more challenging because you can't hide. So as a stranger, you can, not that you should be hiding in this exercise, but there's a natural inclination to be, I think, somewhat guarded.
That's absolutely.
Someone who knows you can see through that anyway.
It's absolutely right, which means that you've actually broken down a bigger barrier for the very reason that you know each other and you've been able to be straightforward with each other. Usually in acting situations, of course, you will find yourself, especially on a film set, where you might be working with somebody who's playing the closest sister you've ever had, and you've never met the actor in your life. Now, no amount of textual preparation, I'm afraid, is going to necessarily open you up as a human being to instantly have an open relationship with a complete stranger. Apart from that, repetition is the exercise, I would argue, that will, of course, immediately bring down those barriers in a gentle, long-term way. This isn't a quick fix, to be clear about it. Yes, Sarah.
I wanted to ask whether this, well, I can see a situation where you could do this and you are meeting your screen partner for the first time and you are meant to be developing a relationship, and the Meisner technique is, I can see why that's really good for that. Supposing it goes horribly wrong and you find that you dislike one another and that happens as a consequence of the technique. I mean, I'm overthinking this now, obviously, but sorry, I forget it. It just occurred to me that could conceivably happen. And whereas, had you not done it, you might have got along perfectly all right for a bit longer. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. So, overthinking is something that I'm familiar with as well. And I would say that you probably are, but nonetheless, you're asking perfectly reasonable questions there. My only answer to you, or the answer to you, is that you would want to be sensitive, most definitely, to your acting partner, no matter what. You'd want to be able to be open to them. Your ability to understand a text and the other side of preparation, which of course we haven't looked at, is the thing which, through the specific use of your imagination, through analyzing a text and understanding what the play's about and what the characters' relationships are, that, if done correctly, will of course put you on the right trajectory with your acting partner, even if as a person you don't like them very much. Because of course your preparation's being very clear to you and saying, no, even though you don't like, the love of your life in this film that you're with, and the actor themselves is horrible, you understand that this isn't a real thing, and that the acting challenge is, of course, to switch completely. My argument, though, would be that the vulnerability that you have adds all sorts of interesting textures and unexpected things that would be there in any relationship that will make it more authentic. It'll make it more real. It'll make it more multifaceted, rather than it just being a one-dimensional thing. So, as I said, it's a bit of a boring example, but if you look at Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes in Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet film, if the anecdotes are true, they hated each other's guts as actors, as people. They didn't get on with each other much. Nonetheless, even with the difficulty of Shakespeare, very rarely will you see two people who you will think, my God, those people are so crazy about each other that they're doing everything just to stop themselves from ripping each other's underwear off. They're that much in love. They're that much attracted to each other. So clearly there is an acting challenge in, believing fully the imaginary circumstances of the relationship that you're in with your actor. And that's a separate thing to what we're talking about here. But you have to be open to them. Because again, you look at two actors and there are all sorts of interesting things going on between Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes in Romeo and Juliet. They love each other, they hate each other. They love each other, they hate each other. two extremes. And that no doubt played into the fact that they were working authentically with each other. They were making a real connection. They'd done the work. They knew where this thing was meant to go based on the script that they were given, but they were still open to the possibility that other things could happen in the moment. And that's what this exercise is looking to do. That may not be as straightforward an answer as I would have liked to have given you, but it's a good question. Just briefly, because I know we're going to have to wrap up here pretty much. We've gone somewhat, I think, over time, haven't we? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So anything very briefly, Yvonne and Sarah, that you want to comment about in relation to you're all good?
Yeah, I think we connected, didn't we, Sarah? We connected. She got me smiling because she said something nice and it just opened me up to smile. And vice versa with Sarah, when I said something, she opened up.
Good, good. Well, look, if it was useful at that level and you made a connection and you got an emotional response from each other, then that's already moving in the right direction. So very glad to hear that. Okay, so yes, didn't mean to run over, but it's always interesting working with all of you and you've been great. And so thank you very much for contributing, everyone. And I hope you found that interesting enough to at least pursue, whether it's with us at some time in the future or amongst yourselves or anywhere else. And that, you know, that we've put it across, I've put it across as clearly as I can, that it's an exciting conditioning exercise to do. But remember, it's not a quick fix. If it's something you want to try, make sure that you keep it going. Keep in contact maybe with somebody that you've repeated with today and see if you can meet up with them separately and repeat another couple of times if you get an opportunity.
Cool.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.